Bobby Fischer always said, "I don't believe in the psychology of the players, but I believe in good moves." According to Bobby Fischer, if we always focus on finding the best move for the position, we'll surely have a good game and a good result. Let's look at this example he played in 1970 in Palma de Mallorca, and we're going to learn a whole lot. He played against Addison with the black pieces, who played the Scandinavian defense, and they say when he reached this position in the game, he gave his opponent a very sharp smile, as he considered the Scandinavian defense at that level to be quite inferior to the others. Why? Because in this case, by capturing the pawn, logically here, as you can see on his second move, he's already looking for the best move, as always, which is capturing the opponent's pawn. Why? Because this way, he draws the opponent's queen into the center of the board, where she can be easily attacked. Let's figure out the best move here once again. It's almost always developing a minor piece. We can develop a minor piece while attacking a queen that's forced to move. In this case, in this Scandinavian defense, she can go to many squares. She can go to a5, d6, or d8, which is what happened in the game. In this case, if we look for the best move again, we'll find that d4 is undoubtedly one of the candidates. There isn't always just one good move. There are many, but d4 is definitely a very good move. Whenever we can place one of the two central pawns in the four central squares of the board, it'll always be a good move. Why did Bobby Fischer smile when his opponent played the Scandinavian defense? Well, as I said, at that level, it's supposedly not that well regarded because it loses too much time. However, at an intermediate level, it works very well. Continuing with the game, the opponent played knight f6, and once again, we have to look for a good move. There are actually many here, like knight f3 or the one Fischer used, bishop c4. All he's doing is developing one of his minor pieces, and he's placing it in a good spot. All he's doing is focusing on what's truly important and not making moves that serve no purpose. The game continued with bishop f5. I should mention that there's a slightly stronger move considered nowadays, which is bishop g4, and I'll explain why. The black player here would take advantage of the fact that this bishop is well defended by the knight, so the bishop couldn't be captured by the queen. Therefore, he's threatening our queen. What should we do? A move like f3 does indeed stop the threat and also poses a threat to our opponent, but he would simply retreat the bishop. And as you can see, this pawn is very annoying here. It stops the knight from developing, stops the queen from developing well, which is why this move isn't usually good. So what should we do if they bring the bishop over here? We could do, for example, knight to f3 or knight from g to e2. Those would be good moves, however. Here, black would be perfectly fine after a move like e6. They can develop this bishop, which is already well placed. This other bishop can also come out. They can castle, and black enjoys a good position. That's why here, after the move bishop to f5 by black, which isn't a bad move, we can see there was already a better move, which was bishop to g4. At least it put us in more trouble, because it forced us to defend the queen. All right, since nothing is threatening us here, Bobby Fischer thought, the normal thing would be to develop my knight. Would that be a good move? Yes, a great one. Is there a better one? Yes, and he frowned it. And you know what it is? A double attack. Whenever we can make a double attack, we should try to do it, because the double attack is one of the most important forces in chess. If we manage to make a good double attack, we'll manage to dominate the position well. For example, here we have queen to f3 available, attacking the bishop and also attacking his b7 pawn, which would also attack their rook. The double attack, as I'm telling you, is one of the strongest tactics in chess. In fact, it's one of the tactics I explained to you in my new book, The Secrets of Real Progress. You know, we explain quite a few tactics. No, for example, you see the double attack here? It's well explained. Here you have it in the new book. At the end of the video, I'll tell you more about this book. I don't want to bother you now. So, as you can see, with queen to f3, a pawn is being sacrificed. Queen to c2, bishop takes c2. Is it worth sacrificing this pawn? Well, in this case, you should know that taking this pawn would be a pretty serious mistake. I'll show you. If bishop takes c2, it's true they've captured a pawn, but we would capture another, and besides, this other one seems too powerful. The rook is being threatened, so knight to d7 must follow. The only way for the queen to defend the rook. There's no other way to defend a rook, see? And so here, we could continue in many ways, but for example, bishop to f4 threatening this pawn. With the queen and bishop, it should follow. For example, rook to b8, we'd capture the one on a7. No matter how much they come here, we could move in to threaten the queen with both bishops and we'd win the queen. And this would be a complete mistake for the black pieces. If you want, you can visualize it yourselves on the board. And you can see that here, after this queen to f3, it would be a bad move to capture the c2 pawn. So what should the black pieces do here? Logically, defend the bishop and defend the pawn. There are only two ways to defend both pieces at once. One would be moving the bishop back to its original square. Doesn't seem like the best move, right? Bringing the bishop to f5 just to move it back next turn. And the other, the one the black pieces used, queen c8, defends the bishop and also defends this pawn. Now, the queen is indeed overloaded. I also explain overloading well in the book. Perfect. So here again, we must keep looking for the best move, right? How to continue? Well, now we should develop, for example, this knight and this bishop. If we follow the rule of developing minor pieces first, we'll be fine. It's true, we made a small exception with this queen because we had a double attack available. But now we'll keep developing these two, and really either one we develop would be a good idea. But wait, chess teacher, if we develop these two pieces, they can capture this pawn now because we no longer have queen takes b7 available. Well, indeed, Bobby Fischer played bishop g5, sacrificing this pawn, which the black player now captures. And it's great that he captures because that way we explain why it's not a good idea to take that pawn. Sometimes we must understand that in chess, who wins in chess? Whoever gives checkmate, right? And many times being a pawn down doesn't mean less strength to give checkmate. On the contrary, it means the opponent is falling way behind and their pieces aren't working well. For example, here the game continues with rook c1 threatening this bishop, which must retreat. And now it's true we can develop the last minor piece we have left, and let's evaluate the position for a moment. What difference do you see? I see a massive difference. Both bishops perfectly developed while the opponent only has one, and it's a bit trapped. Both knights developed while the opponent only has one. We're going to castle on the next move, while the opponent still needs 3 moves, for example, e6, bishop e7, and castling. And besides, we have a rook placed on an open file that's already directly attacking the opponent. As soon as we move these two pieces, while the rival's rooks are extremely far from entering the game. All of this I just mentioned simply in exchange for a pawn. Do you understand the difference? You'll probably have to watch this game several times. Perfect. You can watch it as many times as necessary. Let's see if you leave a like and we can reach a record number of likes because these videos are extremely useful. The game continues with knight from b to d7. And now again, we must think of the best move. Seems obvious, right? Castling. We develop the minor pieces, control the center, and castle. Those are the 3 principles for playing a good game. The opponent does the same, playing e6, blocking our light squared bishop, and also freeing up his dark squared bishop, the last minor piece he needs to castle and develop. The game continues with a very interesting move. There would surely be many good moves here. A very good move comes to mind, like knight to f4, for example. This is where many people get lost. They've developed the minor pieces, controlled the center, and castled, and they say, now what? And they don't know what to do. The idea is that now it's time to improve our pieces. For example, knight to f4 improves a piece that wasn't well placed and puts it in a much better spot, threatening the bishop and also this d6 point with 2 pieces, which, along with a rook, could greatly improve our position. Bobby Fischer opted for a secondary plan here, okay? Obviously, we don't always have to agree with other players' plans, but, well, it's interesting to see why he does it. He used the move bishop takes f6, sacrificing the bishop pair. Extremely interesting, and I'm going to explain why. How would you capture this pawn? This bishop with the g pawn or with the knight? Probably all of you thought with the knight. However, what would happen if it's captured with the knight? I'll show you, because in the game it was captured with the pawn. The idea is that here, white could advance their central pawn and open the position, taking advantage. This is important, and you can apply it in all your games. Opening the position by taking advantage of the fact that the opponent's king is still in the center. When you have your king castled and your opponent doesn't, you must open the center to be able to attack the king. And now, how would all this continue? For example, pawn takes pawn, knight takes, exchange a knight, bishop, pieces are exchanged here in the center, threatening bishop takes g7, bishop takes b7, threatening the queen and the rook. So, for example, c6. And now, for example, this bishop isn't being threatened because if black captures this bishop, we would capture the queen. So we could continue with a move like knight to f4 and we'd already be completely winning. The opponent wouldn't have time to defend everything. They can't defend the rook's entry with bishop to e7 because we'd capture the bishop and give this check that would probably end in checkmate. So here they can practically do absolutely nothing. If they try to enter with the queen, we could also enter with the rook. And I invite you to study this position well because it's completely winning for the white pieces. Therefore, I'm going to go back. You'll perfectly understand that here, after capturing the pawn, I'm going to put this here and this here just as it was. I'm going to set this up like this. Indeed, I think I've done it right, and this knight is here. Exactly. The idea is that here it was captured with the missing this par. It was captured with the par. You saw why capturing with the knight was dangerous, right? You can watch it as many times as you need. The idea is that here Bobby Fischer likewise applied the same principle. You shouldn't overcomplicate your life. Apply principles that you already know. The opponent's king is in the center and ours a divot. What should we do? Open up the center. With what move can we try to open the center? With this one, d5. Logically, the black player doesn't want to open the center, so he closes it with e5. See the logic? Very good. What should we do now? Once again, I've run out of ideas. Well, let's improve the pieces, as always. Which piece can I improve? Well, many of them. For example, this knight is being umbrellaed. The umbrella means it can't jump forward because there's a pawn preventing it. So, for example, we could do knight g3 to improve our knight. Or for example, the one Bobby Fischer makes, this bishop hits the pawn, I improve it here and pin the knight, so that now you can't play this move here, c6, because I'd capture the pawn, pawn takes, bishop takes, and I'd be in great shape. Exactly. What has he done? Improved a piece. The game continues with bishop e7. Again, what do we do when we don't know what to do? Let's improve our pieces. I'm going to improve this knight, which now aims for this outpost at f5. a6, they threatened a bishop, and now we must think about where we want to retreat it. For example, there are many possible moves here. Bobby Fischer decided on bishop d3, facing off these two bishops. Would it be a good idea now for black to capture this bishop? Well, no, because if they capture this bishop, this king will never be safe. In the center, the king is normally never safe, right? Because we can attack it with ease. And if he castles, it would be even worse. Therefore, this bishop is serving as a defender for the castling. So pay attention to Bobby Fischer's thinking. I'm going to threaten this bishop, which is working very well for him to defend his position. Here, black doesn't capture the bishop, but instead returns with the queen to its original position since it wasn't doing anything there anymore. Very good. And now what? Well, Bobby Fischer says, I have all my pieces in very good spots. I could place the rook on e1 or d1. It will be a good move, but you know what? I'm going to launch an attack. Since this defender bothers me a lot, I'm going to play h4, and if he gets distracted, I'll play h5 and force this bishop to be exchanged. Therefore, after the move h4, black notices and plays h5, If he notices, nothing happens, but if he doesn't, then we threaten the bishop there. And now he continues improving his pieces. Bishop f4. This bishop is wonderful here. Can it be captured? Well, it wouldn't be a good idea because not only would we eliminate this bishop, but we would also improve our knight. The idea is that black keeps improving their pieces and we do the same. Look at what black does here. They attack the d4 pawn with two pieces, with the knight and the queen. Do you know what fishy, Baz? Exactly the same thing he did with the c2 pawn. What matters to me isn't a pawn. What matters is winning the game. In this case, I'm going to greatly improve my pieces. He moves the knight from c to e4 and says, if you want to take the pawn, you can take it. In fact, that's what happened in the game. However, now the opponent's pieces are extremely well placed. Sorry, Fischer's piece is inane. How do we improve the position? This rook that was doing nothing, I place it in the center, pinning the knight because the queen is behind it. I force the opponent to play c6 to defend this knight. And now I keep pressing with the move knight c3. I'm pressing this knight, which I'm now threatening with 1, 2, and 3 pieces. You won't be able to defend it. So here the black player says, well, since I can't defend it, I'll improve my queen and threaten this b2 point. A good idea here for Fischer would be to do knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, and queen takes pawn, right? And it would be a very good position, winning back the pawn. However, here Bobby Fischer comes up with a much better move. Feel free to pause the video right now to see if you can find the great move Bobby Fischer used here to culminate in this beautiful victory. I'm going to say it right now. The move was as follows. An exchange sacrifice of rook for d5. He sacrifices a rook in exchange for a knight. Why? Well, let me explain. Because now, logically, black is forced to capture. This is a forced move, otherwise they would have lost a knight. And when they capture, the knight enters with great force. This knight here in the center attacks the queen, attacks the bishop, and it also attacks, once the queen moves, this c7 point with check, and I'm going to take the rook. Therefore, it was a temporary sacrifice. You understand? Here, the black player captured this pawn. It's not a good idea, but moving the queen back wouldn't have helped much either, because the game would have continued as follows. Knight c7 check. If the king moves, we would win the queen with check and I take the queen. And if the king tries to come over here, well, the bishop is here. So we can see that indeed the king can't do absolutely anything. Either he moves here or he gives up the queen. Therefore, here, either way, moving back was useless, and at least he captured this pawn. And how Bobby Fischer finished the game, because it was spectacular. Rook b8 attacking the queen. The queen doesn't have much anything better, I said. She has nothing better than to capture this pawn, and now after the move, rook takes b7, entering with the rook on the 7th rank, the black player decided to resign. And I'll explain why. This bishop is being threatened. Rook takes bishop check, practically winning the game immediately. The idea is that this bishop can't move away either, because as soon as it decides to move, the game could simply continue with bishop takes g6, pawn takes g6, and now knight takes f6 check would come in. If the king moves, we'd give a discovered check, so they're forced to capture, and now, instead of capturing the bishop directly, it's more refined to do this one here. Queen c6 check, forcing the king to have to come either here or here. In both cases, we take with check, and now, whether it goes to the e file or the g file, we'd end up giving checkmate on the next move. That's why the black player resigned. So, for those of you who've stayed until the end of the video, just so you know, this book is available, my new book, and in this book it says resale prohibited because it's my edition. In yours, it won't say that. And you can get it in physical format, like this, to receive it at your home, as well as in digital format. I set the digital format at half price so that all those who can't afford to have it in physical form can still acquire it in digital format. And you can read it exactly the same, it's the same book, through the computer. All right? If you don't know what this book is about, it has three parts. In the first part, one show you the difference between those players who manage to progress in chess and those who don't, so that you understand the difference and manage to progress. In the second part, one explain tactics. All right, here you go. Look, part two. The hidden vision of chess master, the practice of seeing what others don't see. The book is available in Spanish and in chess. And in chess, I mean in Spanish and in English. All right, both languages are available. And in the last part, you have a massive training of real game situations with the proper answer key here at the end, so you can train wonderfully. So this book came out 2 days ago, and it's being a complete success. You guys are loving it. If you want it, you have it down here in the description. I hope you liked this video. Leave a good like, and we'll see you tomorrow in the next one, friends. Goodbye.